Good morning, everybody. This is Phil. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody today? I think we might have a slight echo. Just bear with me a second. That should get rid of that. How is everybody? I'm just having a look to see if there's any chat up, and it doesn't look like anybody. Oh, ADD's here. How you going? Hopefully a few more people will drop in shortly. So where we left off last week was we just prepared all the Clipper firmware and the Catapult firmware ready to flash onto the board, but we were rapidly running out of time, so we called it like 3 or 4 minutes before the end of my normal streaming window. What I've been able to do in the meantime is make a few changes to my setup and make my desk a lot bigger in terms of workspace. So what we're going to be doing today is something just slightly different in terms of the way I'm going to flash the boards. What I've decided to do is I've actually set up a Raspberry Pi as a test bench with the latest version of Clipper on there. And I'm going to use that on the desk here so that everybody can see what's going on. Let's put me on for a second. That's better. Hi. It's best when you can actually see me. So what I've got here in front of me on the desk is the, where are we? Go to hands plus me. Oh, that's not quite what I was looking for, but okay, I'll fix that in a moment. Let's try that. That's not what I'm after either. Oh, for some reason I can't do that the way I thought I was going to. Let's not worry about it for just now. I will go back to just me. So what's basically going on is I've got the putty instructions and sorry, I've got putty up, I've got esoterical up on my split screen on that you guys are going to be able to see, and I've also got at the bottom of that a little representation of my mock-up printer setup here, so that it's got the AFC board, it's got a Clipper screen, and it's got a Raspberry Pi all ready to go so that everybody can watch what's going on as I do it. So let's not muck about too much more, and let's go over to Putty. Okay. On the screen here, I'm already in the Catapult folder ready to go. This side of the screen is the esoterical guide. It's actually running off a hard drive rather than micro SD because it's a lot faster and we don't have to hang around as much. AFC board and a Clipper screen, mostly so that I can see when the Raspberry Pi is rebooting and things like that. But you guys may as well see that just to make life easier for everybody. So jumping onto Esoterical's guide now. Last week, we already built the firmware files. We did a make menu config and then a make to actually make the files. So what we're going to need to do this time is we're actually going to need to put the board into DFU mode, and then we'll go from there. Now, let's just check we are not in DFU mode already. I don't think I was, no. And if you have a look here, you can see that it's just a normal STM723 chipset. So let's put this into DFU mode by pressing the boot button and the reset button. Letting go of reset and then boot. We'll give it about 5 seconds and then we'll repeat our LS USB. And there we go, DFU mode, DFU mode. So we're now up to the point where we're ready to go. Let's go to here and go. CD out, LS, and we can see here that we've got a Catapult bin already built. That was basically I caught up to what we did on the Voron last week, but this is on the test bench now, so we do actually have this. One day you need to take the time to learn what all these commands mean. So LSUSB is just simply give me a list of all my USB devices that are connected. And DFU mode is simply the mode that the chip is in to allow it to be flashed. And a lot of these commands, I have the gist of what they do. Having talked to Esoterical and having used them a lot, I've kind of guesstimated what they do in my own head. Explaining them to somebody else is probably not going to work. Hi, Nick, how are you? So what I'll try and do is I'll give a little bit of an explanation as we go, but it's not going to be a a full-blown I know this and all of this kind of situation. So we're in Catapult. We've done the make, and we're going to do the. Actually, let's just check we are still in DFU mode because they have a habit of falling out. It's not. Oh yes, it is in DFU mode. So now we can do the flash. So sudo DFU util. That means it's going to call the DFU utility, which is the flashing software, and it's going to start flashing it at this address, and it's going to use that file. And this is the device address which we're going to be using. So if we were to have a look at this here, we'll see that the 0483 matches this 0483 right here. So I think I might have missed a 1 off the end of that. Yes, I have. So let's fix that. And yes, I am using the default Raspberry password. Error downloading get status doesn't mean it didn't work. That's one of the biggest traps for a lot of people is they see the error during download get status and they freak out and they think it's not worked. 99 times out of 100, it actually has. In fact, if you have a look on Esoterical's guide, you'll see here that he actually has the error there too. Don't panic about it. It's normal. It even says here, if the result shows error during download get status or something, it's still fine. So don't stress it. So now we can do our get serial by ID, which everybody knows. And you'll see that it's got a Clipper firmware already on it. That was already flashed onto it by, wait a minute, am I in the wrong spot? No, something's not quite right here. It must already have a Clipper version on there. I'm still going to go ahead and treat it like it's not. And I'm going to go through full esoterical process just to make sure that we've got the latest version that matches my setup here. Yep. Okay. So what I've just done is I've stopped the Clipper service, which can cause things to go crazy. So I'm just going to do that serial by ID again, make sure that's all flashed there. We're going to go across to the Clipper folder this time. Now I've got a fault with my mouse and sometimes it's double clicking when I click once. So we're now in the Clipper folder. I've already done the make menu config part. And because we are, sorry, I'm just reading ahead. Because we are already operational, we know that we can just go to serial by ID. And we can replace that. That's not what I was trying to do. When you're trying to do this live in front of people, you're always going to stuff something up and make yourself look silly. Why is that not pasting? Try from here. That's better. And enter. Input output error. What am I doing wrong? Let's have a quick look at this. LSUSB. That's weird. Let's reset the board. If there's no error, it probably didn't work. I've seen that before too. Okay, that's not playing nice. Sudo reboot now. Can't even do a sudo. Looks like I have some sort of permissions bug going on. Let's pop the power back in. Beauty of using a SATA hard drive is that it means that I don't really have to worry about the SD cards getting corrupted because there isn't one. It's also so much faster. I'm getting about 800 megabytes a second instead of the 120 or 110 that some SD cards are lucky if you get. And now you can see why I've got the screen, because then you can see what's going on just like I can. That USB CAN hub you teased last week, does it have a USB CAN bridge on board? I can't talk about that. That's not been released to the public. I was only told that I could kind of give an overview similar to what Luke did, so keeping it all very much. Here's a product. It's been shown already at TCT, and as a result, you can have a quick look. But the technology that's going on inside, yeah, can't talk about that yet. Okay, it looks like we should be back in, so let's restart this session. Yes, I know it's a security risk using Raspberry. Okay, so that's all my old stuff from the previous session. Let's go CD. There's a bit of lag. There we go. CD Clipper. And let's just show you this stuff that I did anyway. Make a new config. Now, Esoterical's guide has all of the board configs nicely laid out for us. So let's just compare Catapult config. So what we're doing is we're comparing this here to what we've got going on here. STM chip with enable low-level configuration. Oh, that's the Clipper one. Enable low-level. Here we go. Low-level configuration options. Microarchitecture STM32, 723, 128 offset, 25 megahertz crystal. Communication on PA1112 for USB. USB IDs you don't need to worry about. There's this new feature called optimized stepper code. Don't know what it's about. I'm leaving it enabled. It was enabled by default, so I assume that the Clipper guys know what they're doing. Quit. Make clean. Make. So what make clean does is it clears the cache and then does a completely new build of the firmware. That's why I'm doing this way. We had a strange bug. Let's avoid the bugs. Version 12.467, that's fine. And built. So let's initial flashing of boards. Now the Clipper session will be running, so we need to kill it again. They have showed a bunch of new stuff that they're teasing, but I'm not sure 100% what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not. So it's best that I don't talk. Let's put it this way. I've got to play with some really cool toys recently, but yeah, not sure what I can and can't talk about. So we've shut down the Clipper service. We've done the make menu config. Let's cut out the middleman and just go to here, Control C. And then, actually, probably better if we do this. and then this to get our ID back, and then that. That's not what I was trying to do. That's what I was trying to do. Why do I keep doing that to myself? Make slash price equals that one. That's better. There seems to be something really buggy with this install of Linux. Okay, new plan. Rather than try and flash this all on this test bench thing with my hands and stuff where you could see it, I'm just going to plug it into the Voron. I should be able to pretty much replicate everything except you being able to see the screen stuff straight up there. So let's try that. Let's go close. Okay. No, I don't think I missed the underscore. It was a copy and paste. It got the rest of the address. Let's bring up putty again. V2, load, and open. Let's make that font size a bit bigger for everybody to read. Change settings, appearance, change. If you're an old man like Bill or me, then changing the font size will make life much easier. And it's certainly easier if you can read it on the screen where you guys are. There we go. So that's all fixed. That's there. We're now talking to the Voron behind me. So what I'm going to do is unplug the AFC board. Okay, let's do ls USB. And there we go. We've got the 723 chip. That's what I'm trying to do is set my screens up, Nick, just like hopefully most users would try and do it themselves. What I've got is I've got two 32-inch monitors because it's the only way I can see with my bad eyes. Over here, I've got my OBS and your chat. And over here, I've got what you're seeing basically straight up on my screen. I don't have the camera overlays, but I don't need to see those. I don't need to see me. I'm ugly enough. I can see me all the time. So first thing I need to do is put the board into DFU mode. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and flash Catapult again, as if we were starting from scratch. And now we are in DFU mode on the 723 board. So let's go back up here. CD Catapult. So we're in the same directory. We've got that. We've got that. Catapult/out/catapult.bin. That silly double paste thing going on. error during get status. We knew that would probably happen. So following SO's guide one more time. Serial by ID. I'm guessing we're getting this because it's already got a Clipper install on it. Let's go here, sudo stop. And we're stopped. Hi, Bill. So what we've got going on, Bill. Originally, I was planning on flashing the AFC board using this gear in front of me. We're having some sort of weird permissions issues going on. So we've aborted that. And now what we've got going on is the AFC board is plugged back into my Voron like it was last week. And we're about to flash across. We've just done Catapult, and we're about to flash across to Clipper. It does already seem to have a Clipper install on board, which somebody mentioned on the stream I saw, but I'm going to go through and make sure that it's got my most up-to-date version going on. So serial by ID we've got going on. We've stopped that. We need to go to the Clipper directory. We've already done the make menu config. And we're not going to do a whole copy of that. We're just going to do that bit. Control C, click inside, paste. Now we're going to grab this ID for the 723. For those wondering, the 446XX, that's my Octopus board. And enter. And we're done. That looks a lot more like what we're supposed to. You know what I just realized? We wouldn't have, no, oh, I'm thinking backwards, don't worry about it. So that's no worries, Bill. So we know we've got our USB ID. We'll just do that one more time. See if it changed. Did it change? No, it didn't. That's fine. And now we can restart Clipper. Now, one thing I am going to do while we're here is I'm going to copy that. I'm going to jump into my Voron. I'm going to go to machine. I'm going to go to that one just because it's here. For some reason, in the recent update, the devices has disappeared at the top of the screen. Don't know why, but in the very latest updates, devices seems to have gone walkabout. But what I'm going to do is, because of that, I am going to go create file, AFC board.cfg, just to keep it in the right format. And I'm going to put the address there, and I'm going to save it. It's not included, so it's not going to hurt anything, but it's saved there, and it means I can find it much more easily. Oh, so Isix is definitely now doing it. Okay, that makes sense. You see sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And it also might vary with the board variant. A lot of the videos we're seeing are creators who've received an early version of the board, where the USB Type-C plug actually comes out of the edge of the board. See, this will actually work for a change. So on my board, the Type-C port is aligned with the JST, so it comes out of the board this way, whereas the original version of the board, the Type-C port pointed away from the edge of the board, which made plugging things in more difficult for some people. Now, that's that there. So let's jump back now to Box Turtle. and see what we need to do. We need the build guide. So let's go to this view and make that full screen for you guys. Hi, I'm still here. I'm in the top left-hand corner now. And where were we up to? We've got the box turtle build. We are Fill Matrix we'll worry about next. Turtleneck we've got done. Turtleneck 2 looks really awesome. May swap over to it, but at this stage I'm just going to hold off. And also the new brush. I'm probably going to print that out this week to match, so we'll go with that as well. So let's go into the manual. And respoolers are built, extruders are built, mainframe is built, turtleneck is built, general assembly. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's get rid of this off the desk. Okay. Good to see my tracking's not working again. What we've got going on is, make me hands a bit bigger. I know what this is. This is that filter I put on. Click there, delete. That's better. Now you can see my pores better. Close that. Make that a bit smaller. AFC board over there out the way, screwdrivers there. So on the guide, what we've got going on is we remove the bar and we put in the 2 rocking nuts. We put the board already onto the little support, but it says here to keep it very loose, so that's what we've done. That's where the manual's up to. So next we need to grab out the box turtle. Now, they are recommending to actually bolt the AFC in with the bar out. But I think I'm just going to screw it in here now. Allen key. This screw feels like it's just a shade too short. Ah, that would probably be why. I'm using the wrong screws. That's the wrong side of the board I'm trying to screw in. I should have known after what I was saying a few minutes ago. I can't remember if these are 10mm screws or not. So quickly checking. Yes, 10mm screw. And it says 2x M3 socket head, which is what I've got. and it does actually mesh. Now, I'm going to just loosen that slightly to allow it to slide a little bit. Mount the AFC, appropriate location to fully secure at approximately 34 millimeters from the front edge. Front edge being which edge? Front. That doesn't help. Not shown in that diagram. So it's towards the recesses. So what I'm basing this off is there's a lot more extrusion here than there is over there. And that's where the recesses are. You can't easily see in my picture, but here. So 34 mil from there. There. It would have been nice if it was shown more reliably there. I mean, I possibly could have guesstimated it based on the orientation of the board against the extrusion, but there's just a few little spots in the manual, as awesome as it is, that just miss things. Ah, got it first time, nicely. So, we've got the AFC board mounted, and now we need to turn things over and start grabbing our respoolers. Somewhere here I have a box full of stuff. There. Lane 4 spooler is what it wants, first of all. Motor 3. So I'm guessing that's not the right one. Motor 2. Motor 1. Motor 4. Okay, so let's have a look. That part points up. That all disappears into the recess. This is wider than my spool. Sorry guys, I'll just explain what's going on. At this point, this unit is too wide to mount into the recess by quite a long way. That could only mean that the Going to need to do some fiddling. So what's going on, just to bring you guys up to speed on what I'm seeing? The wheels are just simply too wide. They're supposed to fit just between, based on what I'm seeing here. Sawzall, I'm not sure what you're saying there, ADD. Oh, reciprocating saw. Slid what in, Bill? It's a lateral issue I'm having. That is just too wide. It's too wide by maybe 4 or 5 millimeters. Okay, so let's take that off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to test something here. I'm putting just okay, so it can fit. What I was doing was test fitting to make sure that the shafts weren't too long because of a bad batch or something like that. These outer wheels will go all the way in. In fact, these are such a good tight fit, I probably don't even need these. That's there, that's there. So I've got the inner hubs pressed hard up against the inside of the system, the shaft. The thing is, the way that it's designed, Nick, you can't do that because of the splines. There's the little bumps here, and then there's these then recess into it. All I can assume is one of the hubs was slipping on the shaft, and that was then preventing them screwing all the way in. It's a little better, but it's not much. So that one doesn't slip on the shaft. Ah. Sorry, I'm off camera at this point. I'm making headway. That's best described as an interference fit. You can hear the texture of the wheels pressing. Ah, there we go. I've got maybe 0.5 millimeter tolerance on each side with that one, but it's in. So let's not argue with that. Next. Now we need M3/8s. M3/6, M3/6. I have a feeling I have the M3/8s tipped out somewhere. Nope. M3/8s. So what's happening is the hubs are all the way in. They won't go any closer. It was getting the wheels to turn that last 1/3 of a turn, so that it all crunched in together. That was the problem. So M3/8 times 2. Why did I pour the screws out into here when I'm going to have to turn it over? So feeding the cables back into the recess. Now we've got all this sorted out. There's a little more rubbing than I would like. So one last squeeze. I think it's going to sort itself out with a little bit of time. Now, what I'm seeing on my screen is not quite what I'm seeing in reality. I'm trying to show you guys as much as I can. On the screen, it's showing that this is all flush versus reality, where it's set in like maybe 10 mil. So it's definitely not sitting down where it's supposed to do. Ah, that's what it is. I remember seeing this on somebody's stream. You have to kind of rock it in with the extrusion to explain. These teeth they need to actually integrate with the extrusion here. Okay, so that's in. Now we need to put the screws in. Sorry, I know the angles mean that you guys can't see as well, but that's now actually matching what I'm seeing on the screen. This is more or less flush, maybe 1/2 mil recessed, but it's in place and it's in the right spot. The arm is flicking back like it's supposed to, so I think that's all in. So let's just check. We've got LED cables like we're supposed to. They're pointing at the outside. We've got the power cables for the motor on the inside. So lane 4 spool is installed. Next, we need one of the switches, which I'm going to guess needs to be labeled number 4. Prep 1. I'm going to go for one of the ones with the longer cable. Prep 3, so we're going to need that shortly. That's the other one with a really long cable. Prep 4, hopefully you can read that. And what do we need to do with prep 4? We need a washer, and it needs to face that way and go against the arm with an M38 as well as a washer. M5 washers. M3 by 7 by 0.5, it doesn't say, but there's lots of them. M3 by 8. Let's see if I can tilt this up and give you guys a better view. Slightly better. Secure it in place where the switch is collapsed without forcing the trigger spools forward. Okay, so that's what I've done. What it's saying is make sure, and I'll show you again in a moment on one of these others, make sure that the switch is depressed without actually pressing on the arm so that it moves. So, switch and a spooler. Imagine that this is actually all installed. It's saying install it like this, not like this. So arm needs to be all the way back, but with the switch pressed. Hi, Killer Prince. So this one is number 1, so I'll put that over there. This one seems to be number 2, so that can go there, and that's number 3. So I'm assuming that the next part is rinse and repeat for all the lanes. Oh no, it's saying to install the extruder. Okay, we can do that. Picking the one with the longest cable because I'm hoping I've got it right. Yes, load number 4. So just going to tuck all these cables over the top. Now, the adjustment screw points at the respooler. Note, some users find it easier to install 80 millimeters of 3 millimeter ID Bowden tube next to the extruder spooler before securing. I don't think I'm going to have that issue, so I'm going to YOLO it. What do I think of the build so far? Manual is awesome in its design, missing some important points at some steps that would make life a lot less confusing. For instance, it only sort of vaguely called out the fact that you need to match the motors to the switches in one of the sections. Now, this is the point where we need to make a decision. We only installed heat sets to have the spoolers parallel. Everybody seems to say that they're far better off installed pointing slightly at the splitter. So I think I'm going to actually install the heat sets now before we get any further. And then worst comes to worst is we can adjust them. Now, I don't know if there's enough heat sets in the kit. Why did I just hit back, forwards? But I have a million of my own heat sets. Actually, where's my mouse? I'm not quite Steve Build's levels of hardcore, but I did go out of my way to set up some part storage. So let's see if I can move you across so you can see. No, down a bit, down a bit. Nope. All right, that's not working as intended. Screws. That was the preset I did. Does it work? No, all that does is look at the top of the monitor. Anyway, I've got a huge rack of storage bins and I've started labeling them. Let's put it back into tracking mode. There we go. So as you can see, I've started labeling them, keeping them under control. It's been such a good idea. Okay, so that in the meantime has been warming up. What did I do with that? Help, where did I put my heat sets? Oh, I put them back. Killer, going back to your question about what I thought of the build so far, one thing that I wish they had done is provide some of these parts with the so that people could do their own supports. The ethos of saying, no, we're going to provide supports on these parts and you have to use them and we won't provide you with no supported part. We're big kids. Some of us prefer to do our supports our own way. And a lot of people, including people like Steve and Modbot, who do spend a lot more time than I do, admittedly, tuning their printers, they got told they need to tune their printers better. Which, it's Steve. If Steve needs to tune his printer better, then we're probably all doing it very, very wrong. Okay, so those two heat inserts are in. Put that there to cool down. What you can't see just off the edge of screen is I've got a big chunk of steel that I rest my soldering iron on, which both sucks the heat out and prevents it touching things it shouldn't. Grabbing another M38 to secure this into place. One mod I did see somebody discussing, I don't even remember where, was they'd actually reversed the way the drive works. They actually had it so the heat set was mounted yeah, the heat set was mounted in the lug here. And what they'd done is in the trays, they'd actually cut a groove. And as a result, you could actually rotate these within the groove to whatever natural position worked and then tighten it down. That seemed like a really novel way of doing it. I didn't follow up any more on that other than to see it and think, oh, that's cool. But yeah, there are other options if you're finding that this isn't working. You could see if you can track that down. Okay, where's my mouse? It's over there. That's the problem. So it's saying run the cables across now. 1, 2, 3. Now, one thing I had been hoping that would arrive by now. Hi, Kevin. Kevin, do I know you by any other screen names, maybe? No, okay. I didn't know if you were the famous K2 or anybody like that. So there we go. Close that, close that, close that. Looks like you're an Aussie if you're saying g'day, so g'day. So prep. Now, if you can see on here, it's got the color coded prep, load, N20 and stepper, and they've color coded them here. So stepper 1 is this one. Or stepper 4, should I say? Well, welcome aboard. Welcome to the cult. You'll be dismantling your printers and doing crazy stuff like this to them in no time, I can assure you. So this is now prep 4. Prep is the light blue one, which goes in one above the bottom in the middle column. One above the bottom in the middle column. Locked in. And now for the N20, which is the little tiny motor that plugs into there on the bottom port. Kevin, just to give you a quick intro to everybody, Bill is one of those people who's been there, seen it, and done it for pretty much everything you could imagine. And because he's retired, he has the time to be able to do everything that he wants to do when he wants to do it within reason. Nick is just some crazy guy who hangs out on lots of streams, but he's pretty cool and chatty. And who else is in here? ADD, he's an Aussie guy who likes to heckle me a lot, and it's all good, I don't mind. But no money to do it with at the moment because you keep spending on things like crazy upgrades for your CNC. Oh, and Killer. I don't know enough about Killer to be able to give you an intro. Okay, so here's another picture of the AFC just to make sure it matches. So stepper motor is here and is plugged in. Wires, colors even match. The N20 is plugged in, so that's fine. The loading switch is plugged in into the right spot with one. That's different. Did I plug that into the right spot? Give me a moment. Let me just check this. Now, the problem I've got is what you see and what I see is slightly different. I have a giant tripod in the way of the screen. So just to give you an idea, right through here right now, I have the tripod leg. Ah, that's what I'm missing, the load. That goes I know what's confusing me. So prep goes there and load goes one above it and one to the left. So because of my limited view, I couldn't see, all I could see was the yellow and the teal outlines. I couldn't see that the sockets are actually offset, and that's what confused me for just a moment. Trident is the acceptable choice. I mean, I built my 2.4 as my first printer, and I had no difficulties with it. But my day job is teaching science and engineering, so putting things together like that was no big deal for me. If you're new to that sort of stuff, I can see why Trident would be a little easier. There's one less motor to deal with. There's a whole bunch of less alignment stuff you need to worry about because it's handled by the software each time you do your Z-tilt. And now we move on to spooler 3. Double checking spooler 3. Yep. Now, Bill, I'm just going to show you something just to see what get your thoughts on it because you weren't here when I was doing it. This is my putty layout screen. So if I do this, it means that I can have Esoterical's Guide down one side of the screen, putty in nice big font down the other side of the screen. And you can also see me. And what I originally had set up, like I said, was I had a Raspberry Pi on a screen and everything, so people could see what was actually going on with the electronics while I was flashing the AFC board. So yeah, do you think that's a worthy layout to keep, or should I go back to something more traditional like Steve does? And that one, and all right. ADD likes that, nice and visible. That's what I'm trying to get through. Bill, is you have a different set of requirements as I do to most of these young guys. Your eyes and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So I'm going to try a different approach to feeding this in this time. I'm going to try doing it on its edge and see what happens. And again, before we start, I'm going to put the box turtle on the ground. Same issue as before. That's just rotating on the shaft. That's not going to help my process. So for those of you who've joined late, when I assembled these parts, it looks like I didn't get the tolerances quite good enough. And as a result, the assembly isn't fitting quite where it's supposed to. So what I'm doing now is I'm giving it all a bit more persuasion. That one. Starts with an F, but you can't say it here. Fudge. You can say fudge. I don't mind you saying fudge. Bill is 71 this year. I'm feeling old and I just turned 47. That's all there. Don't tell my physio I just did that. I've got a torn muscle in my torn here, here, and here. Which makes lifting up the kids difficult. In fact, painful. So I'm starting to feel as old as Bill. Without getting too philosophical, you have to decide you're going to enjoy stuff and acknowledge that you aren't 21 anymore. Still too wide. Sorry guys, I know I've gone quiet. I'm just problem solving in my brain the best way to do this. And I think I can see where the mischief is coming from on this one. So just to show you what I can see, the bearing is sitting very, very proud. And I think that's causing me some of my mischief. So something that will press the bearing without breaking the bearing. Two big screwdrivers, that'll do it. What I'm trying to do is press the hub of the bearing and not put all the pressure on the outside of the bearing. Don't confuse catastrophe with convenience. Everybody has medical issues once they push past 30. I certainly do. About mid-October last year, I was teaching a relief sports lesson. The teacher was away, and I decided that I'm young enough to play with the kids, and I got shoulder charged in a soccer contest by a 14 or 15-year-old. Wasn't anything particularly bad about the tackle itself, but I went down, and when I went down, that's better than it was. What I'm doing, guys, is I'm pretty sure my shims that I printed are too thick. So yeah, when I went down during that soccer match, I ended up cracking 2 ribs. And it was nearly Christmas before it stopped hurting. And it fits, yay! Okay, so let's get this all lined up. In. Okay, so that's in place. I'm guessing now it's a case of rinse and repeat. Tape under there. So the tape is just to stop the spoolers being what the unit's leaning on. Okay. First thing I'm doing is I'm just plugging in motor number 3, the N20 number 3, just to get it out of the way. Now I need extruder number 3, checking extruder 3. Wish you had more hours in the day, don't we all? Mostly for sleep at this point. For those who don't know, I've got 2 small kids, and the reason my voice is a bit off today is because one of them had decided to try and commit patricide by giving me some sort of bug again. So I've not been feeling the best the last few days. There's a mod on the Armored Turtle Discord to install those wheels with a flanged pulley. Looks like it might be a good option. Might have a look. One of my big hassles has been my Voron's been offline for the last 10 days or so. It's all printing again now. You teach them to share and then they do. That's right. I just wish they'd share other things than this. All right. Next is motor number 3, which I'm assuming goes in next to motor number 4, but we'll double check. That's right, I'm supposed to put a couple of screws in. I'll do that in a moment. Yep. One of the things I find a little perplexing about this board is there's so many GPIOs available that they could have broken out more and chose not to. And it wouldn't have really impacted the cost of them. So now we need switch number 3, switch 1, guessing the longer wire is switch 3, switch 3, and we need some more M3/8s. So what I'm finding is the easiest way to do these micro switches is to get the screw started with it kind of leading over to one side, not square against its normal position. Then once it's started, just press the assembly up until you can hear the switch click, and then tighten it down all aligned. I forgot the washer. I had a chat with Turtle Crawler about building one of his arms on a stream, not for permission or anything, just more like logistics and stuff. 1515 extrusion is particularly difficult to get hold of. So it was a case of probably waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for delivery, and then maybe not in terms of it turning up on time. Load 4, prep 4. So prep 3 goes above prep 4. 2 more M3/8s. Secure the respooler. Almost 90 minutes in. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so we have motor installed. So we just have load 3 to plug in. Load number 3 goes up there. Make sure I've got no loose cables. Nope, they're all there. By loose, I mean not plugged in. I know they're all kind of all over the place at the moment. So, next. Put that on the floor. That one. So what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just stripping the little spacers out and then using my carefully calibrated eyeball to give it a little bit of a space. Well, that's the thing, Bill. I was asking if there was a 2020 extrusion version, even like had he started with 2020 and then moved to 1515 or anything like that, so it wouldn't be starting from zero. And he said no, he'd always designed it with 1515 in mind. Because I'd found 2020 extrusion available in this really nice post paint, almost London telephone box red. That I was going to use. Because 2020 I can get here dead easy. Okay. Done. Yeah, I know the mechanism's easy, in inverted commas. It's just the having the time to be able to sit down and do the adaptations that are required. Because just like you were saying earlier, very time poor. And gas struts would be interesting. But it already works out quite expensive to build. So what? Just as an interim, I found myself with a crap load of AliExpress cash sitting on my account. So I bought myself the Stealth Press mini kit from AliExpress. It cost me like $20 American. Australia's got this weird thing going on, Bill, where some stuff is super cheap and easy to get because we can just bring it straight in from China. But then some stuff is all but impossible to get or crazy expensive. Try that side. Just having trouble getting, that's better. I'm just having real trouble with this one wheel getting it to thread on. That's better. I think we all want German tools, but most of us only have a Chinese tool budget a lot of the time. Motor 1, motor 2. Rotate. That's fitting much more cleanly now I've done an adjustment. Push, push, push. Does rub slightly, but I think it'll sort itself out very quickly. And while I'm here, save me turning it over yet again. Still not quite there. That might be it. Yep. Hooked into the extrusion and pull the tray into place. And press. Sticky tape back in its spot. Cable spool back in its spot. So just for clarity for people following. Hi, Brent. Just for clarity for people following, what I've just done is put respoolers 1 and 2 in at the same time after having to fettle them, as James May would call it. I had a whole heap of new subscriptions this week. Tony Wright, Projects in Dad's Garage, Wind Farms, and Captain Kern, all regulars around the place. I was hoping some of them would drop in today, but obviously they're busy. Hopefully I'll catch it as a VOD afterwards. When I dropped in on Projects in Dad's Garage's stream, he's building Box Turtle 2. Oh, hi, Wind Farms, you are here. Don't lurk, always say hi. Yeah, Projects was having a whole bunch of hassle with his Box Turtle build. I was trying my best to try and guide him through it, but trying not to be the guy who makes it harder at the same time. So let's have a look at this. Next, we're going to need number 2. That's number 1. M38, M38. Yep, I'm out of M38s in my little tray. M38s, the giant bag. Yeah, trying to help people on a stream without sounding, 1, like you know what you're doing, and 2, like you're not trying to tell them that they're an idiot is tough. And that's definitely not what Projects was. Projects definitely wasn't being an idiot. Things just weren't cooperating for him. Oh, Wind Farms. I'm not sure if you were here when I said thank you for subscribing. I just noticed that you'd subscribed and had just mentioned it, and then all of a sudden your name appeared in chat. Was it me calling you out that made you say hi? Actually, before I do that, that's going to make it tight for doing this. So that is prep 1. So I am going a little bit off the manual right now, based on my keen observation skills. Putting some of this in the order that the manual says is going to be more difficult. So lever is all the way in its home position. Switch flag is down. One of the things that really is concerning from my point of view with what's going on in the 3D printing space is, for some reason, a lot of people have got it into their head that CAN bus is either A, hard, or B, complicated, or C, rubbish and that they should use USB. And I was amongst the early adopters like Polar Ted and Esoterical and all that, those guys. And I don't see it. I don't see why it's why people think it is so hard, especially now SO's guide is around. SO's guide is like, it's like just handing it to you on a platter. And if something's going wrong, it's because you're missing something, or you've got a severe problem with the setup. Like for those who weren't here right at the beginning, I was having difficulties with a permissions issue in Linux that was causing problems with flashing the AFC board. And people might have written that off as CAN bus is rubbish if they were dealing with it. It was actually USB that was causing me the hassle. It was a USB config, so it's not the technology in that case. It was just simply the Linux stuff that was causing the problem. The scary thing is that it was a brand new mainsail build that I'd just done straight from their site and updated. So I'm going to have to investigate that a bit more. But that's the beauty of having a test bench unit like that. So what I've got, for those who weren't around, is I've got a separate Raspberry Pi 4 that I use with a solid-state SATA drive to do all my flashing of hardware. Let's go here, N20 motors, plug into that one. Yeah, so that dummy setup basically allows me to flash things so much more easily and away from prep 1, prep 2, so that goes above that. Speaking of CAN bus, I've got something to send you if you're interested. Probably suit V0 more than anything else. Definitely, Brent, definitely send it through. That is stepper 2. So let's just go through 1, 2, 3, 4. So next I need to install this. I think that it's come down to complacency to a very large extent. People see USB in their everyday lives and they think it's ubiquitous, therefore it's good. But if you pull back the curtain and see the horror story that is the development and the evolution of USB, then you would avoid it more. On that subject, is there an onboard CAN bridge on an Octopus good enough? Or am I... Okay, ADD. Originally, on the original batch of Octopuses, BTT was recommending using a U2C in their diagrams. But I did some asking around, and that was largely because the documentation just wasn't in place yet, and nobody had fully worked it out. It worked on paper, but nobody had got a good guide for it at that point. whereas the U2C was a plug it in and it just works situation. Ooh, that does sound interesting. So it's a Raspberry Pi hat that's got a CAN transceiver on it, 24-volt regulator for feeding off a normal power supply, RGB output, which presumably comes fed via that 24 volts on its own regulator, 2 thermistors, and no cables to connect that all in. That sounds good. Now, as I mentioned before, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so I'm just going to cough. Back. Now, ADD, have a thorough look at SO's guide because it is all on there. And it should just work. I still have a U2C in my my V2 behind me, purely and simply because I really don't want to mess with the cabling. It's in, it works, and I don't want to dick with it. So where are we at? Stepper's plugged in. I'm missing that one. That's plugged in. I can see that I may have to off stream go through and tidy this wiring up a little. Nobody wants to sit and watch me play with cables, so I won't bore you guys with that. Double checking, yes, that's load, plugged in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 steppers, 4 N20 motors. We've got the loading selector switch installed, and whatever the other one is, the prep switch is installed. Next. Now we need to run the hub wiring. Hub connects to the top one. Plug. Next. I think we've skipped most of this. Loading, loading. Yep, it's all the same stuff. All those screws are in. I remembered washers on all of those. Make it match, which we've already done. Now we need to plug in the turtleneck. Shown is the connection to be made to the turtleneck. Oh, now that's not cricket. Why would you do that? ADD, if you've got the early board with the RJ11, do yourself a favor. It may not be an RJ11. It could be a different. No, it is the RJ11. RJ9 is the smaller one that some phones use. Go to a hardware store, buy that as a phone cable. Make yourself a tail up, maybe 5 centimeters, 2 inches long. Cut it, and then put a JST socket on there with soldering and all that sort of stuff. Then you can plug in and out as you need to. The RJ plugs aren't particularly robust, so leave that one actually fixed in the Octopus board. So let's just go over that again. You plug the RJ plug into the board. You have the cable maybe that long. You cut the cable, access the 2 conductors that you need, which will be the middle 2 from memory, and then put a JST onto it, a JST socket, well, I don't have any around, a JST socket onto it, solder it all up, and then, oh, you bought one. I'm describing an AliExpress product by the sounds of it. That's awesome. Yeah, but who wants to do that when you can do it yourself, Bill? I mean, I've got RJ11, RJ9 plugs in a box from Network Crimping, so I would just crimp it up myself if I had to. What I'm actually planning on doing is have some water. What I'm actually planning on doing is unsoldering the RJ port entirely and putting the JST socket straight onto those pads. Based on my quick and dirty maths, it should just be able to solder straight onto the pads with no real difficulty. And then I'll either mount it in epoxy or hot glue or something like that so that it's a bit more robust against the board. So what time is it? It is 10 minutes to. The joke is on whoever assembles this as is, because the turtleneck you have to plug in amongst this rat's nest of cables, like in the bottom here. So what I might end up doing is plugging that all in separately and then have that ready when I've got all the cables tidied up. Let's go next. RGB. Now there is a cable for that I need to find. You guys might be able to hear my dogs going absolutely bananas. It's one of the things they love doing. Sorry, I'm just looking for that plug for the RGB. There. Found it. So RGB plugs into that one behind. So that's the 2-pin JST. It goes into the one below it. Then we daisy chain to the first LED. Daisy chain to the second LED, to the third LED, and onto the last one. Now, for the eagle-eyed amongst you, I did the LED corners. So I'm probably going to get the wiring harness for that prepped off screen. I've actually got some of these kind of tails sitting in a box. So I'll get all that prepped up and ready to go, and I'll install that towards the end of the build. So that's why they had less hassle. They didn't put that beam in with the plate on it. So, oh, it's a BTT product. They actually started selling one, did they? They realized it was pretty sucky. So, this is what I'm probably going to end up doing. I'm going to take this beam off. I'm going to connect the turtleneck up. I'm going to tidy up all the wiring with all the cable ties, and then put the beam back in. And hopefully it's going to look something like that. So it looks like for the next stream, the first thing we're going to be doing is the PTFE tubing, making sure everything's tidy and in place. And then we will be doing what? Putting the turtleneck into place. Already done that bit. Before installing the final trim, panic. Okay, it's a good time to connect the printer and verify functionality of all the components. That wasn't meant to happen. I just caught my electric desk. A bit more. There we Initial startup guide, blah, 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 blah. So next, it looks like we're moving on to software. So beginning of next session will be installing the LEDs on the front corners. It will be installing the PTFE tube, and then we're going to move on to doing software, which will largely be the putty screen that I've already built, making life simpler, and then hopefully installing it on top of the printer, which means I'll have to remove the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder during the week. So has anybody any questions for me? Because we're just short of my 2-hour window. How many of you have liked and subscribed today? Yeah, the whole choosing a telephone connector. I understand some of the logic behind it because it's used quite widely in things like lasers and big machine automation for linking CAN bus systems together. So they were probably just going with a technology that they've seen around the place. But for what we were doing and what we're used to in our use case, GST makes so much more sense. So hopefully everybody has liked the stream. Hopefully everybody will invite a friend for next week. And from here, yeah, it's going to be mostly software and a few little bits of hardware. And I need to print the base now. My printer is back online so that we can cover all this up. Because as Steve Builds reckons, there's no build is complete without a base putting on it. So with that said, I am Phil. I am the Down Under maker, and it's time for me to hop out of here. Thanks for coming, guys.